How's that?
That's nice. You can go back and talk
All
some
right.
more. We're good.
Be right back.
Do, 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 do. Do, do, do. All right, I'm letting the theme song fade out there, and my cohort here at Radio Science News, Robert Strong, is packing. Oh, there's the Queen. The Queen is here, Robert. Anyway, we're down at Smart Center Market, and it's always exciting here. What? That was good. So while Robert finishes up, he's packing up a really nice telescope for a customer here at Smart Center Market. I'm going to take time to one of the topics that we were probably going to spend some time on today was the summer solstice. But instead of doing that, I'm just going to play a song that should remind you of the summer solstice. Yes, and those are chickens in the background. Oh, let's just go with it. Headphones. Wait for it. Oh, we got the last chicken in there. That was so
The last chicken. The last chicken to Memphis.
Take the last chicken to Memphis. No, Robert, you know, we always, we are very close to the summer solstice.
We're extremely close to the summer
And we
solstice.
nor-
We're just days away, aren't
Well,
we?
we normally would have spent a lot of time, but instead I took 1 minute 8 seconds, played a little bit of the great Beatles tune, Here Comes the Sun.
Dun-dun-dun-dun.
The part that I didn't expect was that I had vociferous chickens in the background there. And at the very last fading of the guitar note, one rooster got the last word in. So,
Whoa, rooster last word.
so
I like that.
So here at Radio Science News, Robert was helping some folks out with a telescope, and now he's ready to get us to the launch pad of science.
Yes,
and we'll take
yes,
off
I
from
am.
there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you you waiting on me just
No problem.
just a little bit. We have some friends from out of town that need a telescope as a present.
Yeah.
And so we were just doing the last little odds and ends to make sure that they feel comfortable, and then they'll come back in and do it again. So if you want to join us with the launch pad of science, you can go to my favorite webpage on the internet, which is www.smartcenter.org, SMARTCENTER.org. And when you're on there, you'll notice that there's a little Hipplica rainbow that says Radio Science News. And then just above that is a link. That link will take you directly to the webpage of Radio Science News, where Richard lovingly puts up all of our topics for our sciencing convenience. And I just want to say that if you scroll down, it'll take quite a while. You will scroll down to the very beginning, and some of these links are still alive. Back to
It's alive.
It's alive. Back to April 15th, 2006. It's a
Wow.
long time. So for over 15 years, we've been accumulating good wholesome science for you. And so if you or your kids or your friends need a nice, safe place to go investigate science, this is the way. So, let me, since I was away from the thing, this is Radio Science News, episode number 790 in a series, June 19th, 2021. If you're into prime numbers, of course, anything that ends in a 0 is not a prime number. The factors are 2 and 5 and, of course, 79. So we are in the launch pad of science, and we've got Juneteenth.
We've got too many. We've got a million stories.
We've
here.
got Delta variant.
Delta variant,
Gamma variant. Sounds like a Star Trek episode. The dangers of the Gamma
The
variant.
Gamma quadrant.
The UAP report.
Oh, wait a minute.
The Gamma knife. It's bad to be under the Gamma knife. We've got LIGO. I assume that is looking for more black holes that are merging, or
I think they found another use for it. So that's what's
an
interesting.
even better use.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. And then what is this Kagome?
Kagome lattice.
Kagome lattice.
This is something from some of your physicist friends.
Oh,
over,
physicists. Okay.
We'll talk about.
And then we've got a motor.
This is actually a molecular motor.
Oh, I love molecular motors.
And then this is a many million year pulse that's been detected.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's going to be
Oh,
cool.
okay. Yeah. And then, of course, you have to have a smoothie
Well,
because
this is a mosquito smoothie.
Ooh.
I know. Not my favorite flavor.
Anything to kill a mosquito, as far as I'm concerned. I'm not going to drink it, but I'll certainly blend it.
Blended. No, man. But it's a
Mosquito-matic.
but it's a beneficial blending, so don't feel bad about it.
Oh, I certainly won't. If anybody knows me and has talked to me for more than about 3 minutes, you know that I hate mosquitoes.
You do? Well, that's
Oh, I
interesting.
cannot stand them. They have given me malaria far too many times.
Oh, man.
And any time that I can give to them what they've given to me, I do it.
Wouldn't one be far too many times?
Yes,
I think so.
I think so.
Well, you're going to like this story, and of course, we may not be
Hiccups?
able to cure malaria, but there actually may be a possible. And we've talked about hiccups across the ages and the
Yes.
kind of crazy cures
for
and things.
thousands of years, yes.
So you'll be surprised. Then
Wait. So are you implying that you can cure hiccups with this smoothie?
No,
Oh,
that might do it,
Ugh.
but the hiccup research has actually come up with somewhat of a breakthrough on hiccups. So
Good.
cool.
All right. And then, of course, volcano.
Volcano, very cool story in Volcano. Stephen Hawking, well, he's right about something again. It's like Einstein.
no
you know,
doubt.
that
Yes. And then Betelgeuse.
Yes, it's the
Betelgeuse.
it looks like one of the more definitive studies of why it dimmed and
Dimming.
then came back.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen multiple theories.
Yeah, this was pretty cool.
Okay. All right.
Now, the only thing that you will notice, I didn't put a chart here because I found at least 5 or 6 of these stories
Have their own
had
chart?
nice little charts, and I said,
Awesome.
why be? Of course, we're scientists, but let's not be redundant
Again.
again and again.
Over and over again.
All right. Well, and now, okay, so we have too many stories. I confess right up front, folks who are listening to this show, either the live stream or a subsequent rebroadcast, restream. I always apologize. I have too many stories. We
not a
may
problem.
sometimes dip into one and jump back out because these are here for you to
Yes.
enjoy
to
throughout the week.
peruse
That's
at
right.
your own personal sciencing convenience.
And one of these stories popped up literally, the last couple of days. The fact that we are, and the first link you'll see is Juneteenth.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason why I put it up, Robert, right after I knew you would mention your the prime number analysis, somebody mentioned that Juneteenth. Well, of course, it's the 19th, right? So I went, hey, wait a minute, that's kind of cool. And then some people were complaining about, oh, we got too many dang holidays already. How many times are you going to let those mailmen and the banks close and get, they were cranky about, and they were saying that this is the 11th federal national holiday.
Ooh, prime number.
I thought 11?
11/19? Sounds good.
So let's click on that just briefly.
All right.
And what I want to say to you is that somebody, I imagine that Juneteenth.com has probably been up there for a while, but this is really neat. This is a really important issue, a real important thing.
What a fascinating thing. It says Juneteenth is the oldest nationally celebrated commemoration of the ending of slavery in the United States.
That's right. Well, but here's the part that was really...
Wow, I did not know that it's the oldest.
Well, and apparently there are a lot of people in and out of government who have ignored this whole concept. So
But why?
what I want to say is take the time to read this over. The most fascinating thing, because it was celebrated in Texas for the most part, among certain parts of the population, because in Galveston, Texas, in 1865, it's when the people found out that slavery was no longer allowed to happen in these United States. The only odd thing about it, Robert, was if you're a real history buff, you know that 1865,
happened
several
earlier.
years
Yeah,
after
that
the
happened
emancipation.
considerably earlier, it was announced. But being that the slaves were not allowed to read,
Well, and people just said, well, let's just not tell them.
let's just not tell them. And,
Yeah.
wow, that is so sleazy.
So anyway, this story is really good. General Gordon Granger, came and basically to Texas and said, "Hey, I know it's like 2+ years after but this
But
is
it's
the
about
law
time, guys.
of the land."
It is the law, whether you agree or not.
That's right. It's
Yes.
kind of like reality. Well, we all know how that goes.
I don't know about that.
We all know how that goes. All right, so this is a very wonderful long
This is
article.
really well done.
And I'm sure there'll be more links. It's talking about
Oh, sure.
activities and books and different things. I really enjoyed looking at it, but I'll let you guys look at that in your spare time there.
Juneteenth, what a
Now,
great idea.
Now, the thing that we have been spending a lot of time on over the past time period have been COVID stories.
Yes.
And right now, frankly, I'm going to say everybody's getting a little, I don't want to say too cheerful. Cheerful is not the word I'm looking for. We may be coming
At
a little
ease.
We may be coming a little too at ease, and it's
Yeah, I
important.
think so too.
It's important at this time. It's kind of like Custer saying, "Well, it looks like the Indians aren't going to attack after all."
It's a beautiful day.
It's a beautiful day, and
Wonder what's around the bend.
yeah. So these two articles, the two things that are concerning a lot of people are the fact that because we perhaps didn't address it as well as we should have in the very first
Yes.
days of the thing, we have allowed variants to emerge as they
Yes,
will. It's a
as
mathematical
they will.
certainty.
Sure.
So we'll take a quick look at these variants. The one that is getting the most discussion right now is what's known as the Delta variant.
It says COVID-19 variant Delta, first identified in India, is becoming the dominant variant of the disease worldwide. The World Health Organization's chief scientist said on Friday. That's because it significantly increased, said the World Health Organization chief scientist during a news conference. Studies suggest Delta is about 60% more transmissible than the Alpha, the
Yeah.
variant first identified in the United Kingdom. That is not good news, folks.
Well, and again, there's a lot of stuff in this, and we're at the early stages of people really becoming concerned. I think it points out here that they've left. I think in Great Britain they had a scheduled sort of like a reopening, and they've actually postponed it because it's the math of having something 60% more transmissible.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to say there's bad news and good news. The bad news is it's more transmissible. The good news is now, and again, this is good news if you are vaccinated.
Yes.
Is that they feel that this variant is completely handled.
Yeah.
If you are, but what they're finding is for whatever reason, this appears to spread more among younger people.
Oh, that's a bad thing.
And,
I just want to mention, it says it now makes up 10% of all new cases in the United States, up from 6% last week.
See,
This thing is growing and growing fast. If you do not have your vaccine already, get it immediately.
Yeah, and it's of course that's the message we've had. And there's a little paragraph that says that both Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and I'm assuming that probably the Moderna too. It basically shows that the vaccines are highly effective against hospitalization or death. So that's really good. Okay, now let's jump back to the launch pad of science, and from there we'll go to the of course, the people, science, they love to do things like alpha, beta, delta, gamma, the idea is that
certainly
we're
do.
going through an ancient alphabet to
It's
make things.
11:15.
Thank you,
Thank you, there's
Starbucks.
Starbucks. Now, the gamma variant, again, I know, I feel like I don't want to rush us through the stories, but this is from the Columbian. What keeps me up at night? This is this is in Washington State. This is in the good old United States of America.
From the Seattle Times.
Yeah, and the issue we're going to talk about. They have a little picture there of the BioNTech, vaccine, and that's like a stock image to show you that. They're talking about they're moving it down to as young as 12 and all that. So the reason why this is important, it mentions the Delta variant, the B.1.617 is not leading to increased hospitalizations, deaths, or so-called breakthrough infections in vaccinated people. So basically, they're saying it's handling it. It's really well. But here's the next paragraph. See the next little phrase there, the gamma variant.
Oh, yeah. On the other hand, is associated with higher hospitalization rates and increased breakthrough infections. And a breakthrough infection is you've had your
Yes.
a vaccine, and it's going to make you ill anyway.
Yeah. Now you'll still have some benefit, but
You will have some.
But you notice that it accounts for 16% of the cases
all
in
the
Washington
cases in
State.
Washington State, and is the fastest rising variant in the state. Ugh.
Yeah.
The P1 variant is highly infectious. It can quickly spread from one person to another, with some cases suggesting the variant may be less likely to respond to antibody treatments. See, we have to get this under control, because if
We
not,
do.
then we're going to get variant after variant after variant, and eventually we are going to get one that nothing can do anything to.
Well, and that's like you said, the mathematical probabilities of not having kind of squelched it before it just continued to produce random variants, and that's kind of the way it all works. All right, so very serious stuff, but let's get to something really serious, Robert.
Let's do that.
The UAP report, because they said that by law this has to come out here in June sometime, right?
Right.
And I'm assuming that I don't know if they would leak it or what, but the
Who
Pentagon
would leak anything?
the Pentagon UFO report.
So the UAP, for all you folks that have been under a large stone for the last 2 months.
Or do you say largely stoned for the last? Either
largely
way.
stoned for the
Or
last
either way.
2 months. Yes. The UAP is unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Yeah.
That's the new term for what we used to call UFO. It's the same thing, only a slightly different term.
Now, and what I love is they have a new picture of one that is shaped just like the Pentagon. Hey, you know what I noticed, Robert?
I believe it just landed.
I noticed right at the top it has a listen.
Oh.
So why don't you click yours? If we can listen to this
Listen,
instead
okay.
of having us tell
Oh,
everybody.
I would certainly enjoy that.
would be
People
more-
around the world have been spotting unexplained and unidentified flying objects for centuries,
Well.
and for at least the last several decades in the U.S. Many have suspected their government is hiding what it knows about UFOs.
No.
Within days, the U.S. intelligence community may finally reveal some of those secrets to Congress when it delivers a mandatory, unclassified report that will be available to the public. There are
Wait,
some caveats,
a
though.
classified
Here are some
report
key
to the
things to
public?
know before the report drops.
Okay.
Where did the UFO report come from? For years, pilots and other military personnel have been encountering strange things in the sky that have come to be called unidentified aerial phenomena. The change from UFO to UAP is in part a nod to the likelihood that some of the incidents may be explained by technical glitches or environmental phenomena rather than actual tangible objects.
This is nicely
Anyhow,
done. I
these
like it.
reports
Very
sometimes
nicely
get
done.
back to members
Soothing.
of Congress, who then make a push for more investigations and disclosures about those phenomena.
In a Cylon
Former
kind of way.
Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid was particularly dedicated to this cause. In 2007, he helped funnel funds to a secret Pentagon initiative, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, that ran through at least 2012. In 2017, former head of AATIP Luis Elizondo announced he had left the government and was joining the private to the STARS Academy of Arts and Sciences
To the
along with former
stars.
Blink-182 frontman Tom DeLonge. Elizondo also in 2017 leaked 3 now famous videos of military encounters with UAP to the media, and in 2020 the U.S. Navy confirmed the veracity of these clips. It was in the wake of the Navy's acknowledgement of UAP last year that Florida Senator Marco Rubio added a section to a funding bill requiring the Director of National Intelligence to work with the military and intelligence community to submit a report on unidentified aerial phenomena, also known as anomalous aerial vehicles, including observed airborne
AAVs.
objects that have not been identified. The request specifically calls out data from the Office of Naval Intelligence and the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force, which is the successor entity to AATIP. What will be in the UFO
What about
report?
DDT? That's
Well,
what I want to know.
that's to be determined, but some early reporting suggests it probably won't contain anything that fundamentally alters our view of the universe. The report is expected to say that there's no evidence the UAP seen by military personnel are secret advanced American technology or alien spacecraft, but a possible alien explanation can't be definitively ruled out.
Well, yes.
That means the intelligence community seems to think that UAP have causes that are some combination of unknown, mundane, or originating with foreign or private entities. Also, while the report is required to be public, it is allowed to have a classified annex. Officials told the New York Times that this addendum doesn't contain any evidence of alien visitation. Still, it could contain much of the actual, truthy good stuff that we don't get to know.
Truthy good
While
stuff.
no earth-shattering revelations should be expected, the report may include some juicy new tidbits and puzzle
juicy
pieces that help
tidbits.
us better
Juicy
understand
tidbits.
the UAP
Man,
mystery.
am I getting hungry?
When will the report be released?
I don't know.
The deadline is June 25th, so we could see it anytime between now and then. Look for it to drop from one of the Congressional Intelligence Committees, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence,
I
or
think there's
perhaps
been
an
a drop in that
individual
already.
elected official on one of the committees.
There's been a drop
We
in
will certainly
congressional.
share it once we get hold of it, and I'll tweet any incremental
IQ
developments at Eric C. Mack. Forget the report. Can
I
you just
will.
tell me if it's
What?
aliens? Fair enough. No, I can't tell you for sure it's aliens or it's not aliens. But as my colleague Jackson Ryan pointed out recently, the evidence to support an alien explanation for UAP isn't really there. A driving concern that led Rubio and other officials to call for this report is less about aliens and more about geopolitics and national security.
Politics again.
Rubio
yeah.
specifically requested an assessment of whether UAP may
It's
be attributed to
Antifa.
one
I
or
knew
more
it.
foreign adversaries. There's also the strange case of some Navy patents for theoretical technology that could move in ways UAP have been observed moving. Correspondence from Navy officials suggests the Chinese have already been working on similar breakthroughs. Whatever the report reveals, it seems almost certain to raise more questions than it answers. Meanwhile, keep one eye on the sky and another online. Follow CNET's 2021 space calendar to stay up to date with all the latest space news
All right,
this
no
year.
plugs, no plugs. Stop. Shut him up.
People around the world.
Okay,
just-
so it's pretty good. I'm just going to say, as I was listening to that, I'm visited by one of my favorite nieces. We were always
Hasty tidbits.
we were always big fans of the Marx Brothers, and they were asking him about, I don't know whether it was Fredonia. One of the things was they said, what would you say? Would you say? He says, he says, I hate to say no, but I don't think I could say yes. And the guy said, would you say maybe? And he said, I might. So that's
right.
that's a great Marx
I
Brothers thing.
had completely forgotten that. That is great.
It's
I
one of
might.
those great phrases. Okay, now, so Robert, we're going to continue waiting, and
Yes.
I have to say that this has one of the best little. If you scroll down, it has one of the best videos of
yes,
what they call the gimbal, the sort of
Yes.
spinning, the thing that seemed to turn, and you're going, what is that all about?
So June 25th is the
Mark
is the deadline.
Yeah.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So we have UFOs, unidentified flying objects.
Now we have
UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena, and now we have AAVs, anomalous aerial vehicles.
Yeah. And then
How are we supposed to keep all of this straight?
I know. And then we have BVD, blasting velocity devices. There's the BVDs. Oh, no, wait, I just saw that earlier today. Okay. All right. Well, now, Robert, I know people think that one of the things you and I do is we like to look at this stuff
You
and
actually had me going there.
propose solutions, right?
Yes.
Now, last week I gave you that. I said in the back of my mind there was a kernel of a theory developing.
Okay.
Because all I could think of was when my friend would get his green laser out and he'd get the cat to bounce around the room, and I thought to myself, well, see, there's something because it's light that you can move. I mean, it's
At apparently infinite speed.
Well,
and
and
it can change direction.
and relative to what we can conceive, it seems like it's really fast. Now, an example of how you could take, say, like a light or an electron beam, you could scan it on a phosphor screen and you could call it television. And you
could.
do it in higher and higher resolution and faster scan rates, and it gets better and better. So I kept thinking there's something that this reminds me of. Okay, so let's go to our next story, and this will be a clue.
Which is Gamma Knife.
This will be a clue of I'm gonna give you my latest wacko theory of what.
Latest
Okay.
wacko theory.
So if you are familiar with Gamma Knife surgery, and
Yes,
most people are
I
not,
am.
but
Because I find it fascinating.
well, and here's
what
the
a neat idea.
Well, here's the fascinating thing about Gamma Knife surgery. And when I first saw Gamma Knife surgery, it also reminded me of there are people who are trying to figure out how to make really good 3D displays, right?
Right.
And they do have holographic displays and all that. But one of the things that some of these things have in common, and once you get to the Gamma Knife surgery thing, do you see the little chart that's over to the right?
Yeah.
Okay, now the reason why I picked this story was I thought it had a colorful, kind of an interesting.
Okay.
So, Gamma Knife surgery is based on the idea that there are some things that are really. Oh, wait, if you click on it, it gets bigger. Some things can really be harmful to you, like radiation.
Sure.
Or in this case, gamma rays. But it would turn out that you can have a low level of gamma radiation, and it can travel. Let's say it's traveling in a little tight beam
Right.
through part of your flesh.
Or your brain.
Yeah, and it's like anything else. It's like, well, if the water isn't boiling, it doesn't burn me. If it's warm, it doesn't hurt. So it's something that doesn't damage you or you can tolerate or doesn't destroy, in this case, a tumor. Now, if you look at this chart, they have a target, which means
Right.
that there's a tumor interior to the brain.
Right.
They don't want to invasively, do surgery and cut through structures. So if they were just to use one little
To
gamma
aim
beam
these beams at the same area.
and from different angles,
angles,
right? And they could
then-
even move it,
Sure.
But basically, the idea is you have some sort of in this case, a radiation or electromagnetic thing. So it could be, it could be gamma rays, it could be whatever it would be. But the idea is that a single beam doesn't have any effect on what's going on.
Right. But if
if you
you've got 8 to 10 to 20 of these beams.
that are focused, then you can cause an actual
A
physical
change.
something actually happens.
Yes.
Now, in this case, it creates high enough levels, and it may. I mean, some people. We had a story last week where they're using ultrasound beams.
Same concept.
The idea was that you can warm up something and it doesn't hurt it, but if you put 4 or 5 beams, it warms it up to where you have cellular death, and the idea
Right.
is you get rid of the target. In this case, a serious tumor.
So are you saying that these UFOs, UAPs, AAVs have something to do with our brains?
Well, no. See, that's one of the things that I think is
Okay.
actually a possibility, because we're talking about, these people are talking about the so-called Havana effect, where somebody's using ultrasounds or something like that, some beams. What I was thinking of was, okay, again, going back to our cat theory.
Yeah.
If there were something, I don't know, in orbit, let's say something in orbit, or
Sure.
maybe several somethings in orbit at different places, and like one of the things that they're doing with the so-called like the 3D displays, they have a way of like having, and I'm not sure, some of them are maybe ultraviolet light, whatever it is, or you could picture, say, it within a gel or a certain solution that fluoresces. The idea would be having a single one cross at a point doesn't have it light up to where you can see it.
Right.
Oh, maybe you cross 2 or 3, and now you can begin to maybe see a tiny point of light.
Sure.
But if they have multiple, it could be a bright point of light within a gel or something like that that's fluorescent.
And
now
it could now move
it's
around.
totally visible, and all you have to do is to control the way the beams move, and that's mathematically or with computerization.
Sure.
That's not a huge task.
So
what if you had something literally, let's say something in orbit,
Right.
and what it does is it focuses at some point in our atmosphere and excites. Now, you, Robert, may have seen something like the aurora borealis, right?
Yes, I have.
So you know that certain frequencies of electromagnetic energy can cause.
Make the air glow.
They literally can take either nitrogen or oxygen,
Sure.
and because there's an intense enough thing at a point, you can actually make something glow very brightly. And and you can make something move around in front of the
That could do amazing things. And it isn't an actual
no.
object.
It's not it is an object in that it could be a zone of the atmosphere that's now been excited enough to produce a glow, a bright glow.
Yes.
And the reason why I think it's almost
I like this
it's almost
idea.
funny because my original thought of like somebody messing with this because they have the laser pointer and it's shining on the
Right.
surface of the rug. If you had something in front of an F-14 Tomcat or an FA-18,
Sure.
or whatever,
It's the same concept.
it's the same concept, and you could achieve this by
It's
literally.
11:30.
Thank you,
And I hate to, I've been talking to my young grandchildren, and they were having an argument about Star Wars, and I thought, wait a minute, this is just like don't cross the beams. Mm-hmm. The idea is that if you had some levels of energy and magnetic radiation, that there's no question that it can cause glowing of molecules that we're all familiar with, like in the aurora borealis and stuff like that. If you could find a way to, say, at different points, cross that beam at a particular spot,
Right.
and depending on how tightly focused you could do it, it could be tiny.
It could be very small.
Or it could be
Or
big.
huge.
Yeah, it could be
Huge.
It could be a huge zone of what would look like, a plasma or, whatever.
And it would glow. It would move. It could do whatever you want it to do.
It wouldn't be constrained
So-
at all by inertia because there's nothing
Because
happening.
there isn't anything there.
There's nothing there except that the light is crossing
The glow.
at a point or
Right.
converging with multiple things.
So who do you think would be doing such a
I
thing?
don't know. I mean, if I had the equipment, I would.
I
do it.
would.
If I would.
Because it would be awesome.
I'm just saying that this is because we were talking about the possible explanations. People always go, "Wow, this is really crazy." But people would always say, UFOs. They're not the reason why they're not affected by gravity, and you're not slammed against the wall and turned into a mush of jelly is because every molecule of your body is being contained. And then even if you were just sitting there being contained, and the Earth were rotating underneath you, it looked like you were traveling around it. I mean, thousands of miles
Sure.
an hour. So anyway, this is my little addition to the conversation that probably should have just been skipped. But
No, I think this is a very important thing because
the Gamma
it could
Knife
be-
model.
Yes.
Yeah.
It could very well be that somebody out there is just having fun.
Well, and I'm going to say that it's not like some of the 3D displays that people were coming up with involve being able to excite. If you have some kind of I'm saying if you, the medium, I would
Right.
say, if you had some kind of a gel that was in a 3-dimensional space, and it will fluoresce if a certain level of radiation excites it.
Right.
Then all you have to do is determine, hey, you could have 3 beams. It would be just like the Sony Trinitron 3D display by just shifting. And we're really good at doing that. I mean, the kind of
are.
displays that just elicit a TV,
Right.
are that kind of a thing, which is old technology, from way back. So anyway,
It is a possible solution
right.
to the UFO, UAP, AAV problem.
And like again, part of what makes me feel that this makes some kind of a sense is if you are, say, maybe you're just in low Earth orbit, or better still, you could be in stationary orbit, and you can project a tight beam that it would excite the atmosphere to cause it to glow enough so you visibly observed it, and you're up at a 22.5,
Yeah.
you're way up at a then by you literally just shifting that beam
Just a teeny tiny amount.
100th of a degree,
Yeah, it would move really fast.
it'll look like it moved 500 miles in an instant, and
Yeah.
people would go, "Oh my gosh." I've calculated that this thing, you go, "Why, this thing was moving 5,000 miles per hour with no apparent, and somebody would say, "Well, yeah, but that light can move pretty fast too, and it's
The glow.
the glow." So I'm going to say that's my Gamma Knife glow.
I like it. I
glow
like it a
theory.
lot.
All right. Well, I know people are going to start writing in and say, "Are you guys going to get back to real science?" Well, listen, that is
This is real
cool
science because science is trying to figure out
What the
what
heck?
is going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole deal behind science.
And I give credit to my cat. That's
There you go.
The cat made me think about it. All right, so LIGO. Now we may want to jump. Some of these stories are deep in the weeds, And when I saw this one, and I know that Robert, that you're fond of
I am
physicist
fond of Lego.
stuff, these physicist stuff. I mean, I thought it was Legos. That's why I was excited. Wait a minute, they're using
No, no, no,
Legos
no,
to
no.
approach a quantum limit?
Physicists use LIGO's
LIGOs.
mirrors to approach a quantum limit.
Isn't this
a
cool?
large object has gotten closer. Oh, I just got some pop-up here right in the middle.
Yeah.
To a realm usually reserved for the very small.
Oh, that was cryptic.
Says quantum mechanics usually applies to very small objects, electrons, and the like. But physicists now have brought the equivalent of a 10-kilogram object to the edge of quantum realm.
I see. This is
That's
deep. This is
interesting.
This is deep.
Researchers quelled differences between jiggling of LIGO's 4 40-kilogram mirrors, putting them in near-perfect sync. When the mirrors are combined in this way, they behave effectively like a single 10-kilogram object.
Ooh.
So, wait. So you've got 4 40-kilogram mirrors. When they're in near sync, they behave like a single 10-kilogram object.
Now, see, that is counterintuitive.
That's
but
really
yeah.
interesting. LIGO is designed to measure gravitational waves using laser light that bounces between sets of mirrors. But physicists and colleagues instead use the laser light to monitor the mirror's movements to extreme precision and apply electric fields to resist the motion. It's almost like noise-canceling headphones. Oh.
Yeah,
But
that's cool. That's cool.
But instead of measuring nearby sounds and canceling out that noise, the technique cancels out motion. The researchers reduced the mirror's relative motion to about 10.8 phonons, or quantum units of vibration, close to the quantum phonon to the 0 phonon quantum limit. This is really cool.
Yes, well, it is, but it's also like, see, now this is something I haven't normally thought about during the day, but as I'm seeing this, and I love being able to see that, like a comparison to, say, noise canceling.
Yeah, I like that.
Wow.
This is really slick.
Well, that very strange thing where they take 40 kilograms worth of mass and, in motion, and then make
Times
it
4.
operate like 10,
Yeah.
which is an inverse of that. You're
Yeah.
like, what?
That's really cool. Yeah, what I'm sure that there's going to be a lot more about this as this is coming out.
Well, and the kind of stuff that's tough. It's tough to imagine. It's a little bit like string theory and stuff where you're going, I'm getting a sense of it, but. And then the last sentence, it says the LIGO's mirrors are a system to study decoherence effects on supermassive objects in the quantum regime. Wow.
That's neat.
Well, this will take a little more thought,
Yes,
I'm telling you. But
yes, it will. But
that
that's
is cool.
Gee, if we only did easy stuff, then nobody'd learn anything.
Well, that's right. I agree. All right, that's like, for example, this one, the I don't know whether it was the Kagome lattice. It felt very much like a Star Trek thing. Even when I looked at it, I said, "This looks like." Remember that there was they were moving around through. This is a weird concept. For the idea of this. First of all, we have to figure out what does this actually mean when they're talking about this lattice. And so it says an international team led by researchers at Princeton. Well, we knew some good people went to Princeton.
Yep.
I think Einstein was hanging around there for a while. They've uncovered a new pattern of ordering of electric charge in a novel superconducting material.
That's always good.
They've looked down. It tells you what it is. What is a there? The next paragraph.
It says, while researchers already understand how the electron spin can produce magnetism, these new results provide insights into the fundamental understanding of another type of quantum order, namely orbital magnetism, which addresses whether the charge can spontaneously flow in a loop and produce magnetism dominated by extended orbital motion of electrons in a lattice of atoms. Such orbital currents can produce unusual quantum effects, such as anomalous Hall effects, and can be a precursor to unconventional superconductivity. Boy, I like the concept of that.
Yeah.
At relatively high temperatures. See, that's what everyone's trying to find. If you can get high temperature superconductivity, then a bunch of the being able to make electricity and transmit electricity gets really easy. Wow.
Yeah. So again, this is kind of deep in the weeds, but this next part is it says the discovery of novel charge order, and whatever Kagome superconducting with topological band structure, which is also, here's the thing, it's tunable with an external magnetic field. So basically,
Is a major step forward that could unlock new horizons in controlling and harnessing quantum topology and superconductivity for future fundamental physics and next generation device research.
Yeah,
Wow.
and again, even looking at this, so much of we've talked about over the past several years of people looking into very, very interesting issues of like energy production within metal lattice structures and yada yada yada. A lot of it has had to do with finding, again, Tesla, and we're not talking about Elon Musk. We're talking about the real Tesla.
Tesla.
Nikolai Tesla was all about the fact that if you could understand resonances and tuning,
right.
and within the so-called the devices like the ECAT and stuff like that, it seems really clear that part of what's going on is they have through multiple experimentation, according to whether these things are really working the way they say, they've exerted external like electrical or magnetic fields that somehow resonate in a certain way that and this is sounding a lot like that.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say that if within some process that you have where you're putting energy through a system or you're putting it in a plasma arc or whatever's going on, and it turns out that you alter the material such that now they're superconductive, you're going to have some amazing effects, whether we know what they'll all be. So this is really, isn't this crazy?
Yeah. And I just wanted to say that we don't have the time to go through this entire article. This thing is really long.
And it also mentions that this is based on pretty much 2 Nobel Prize winning concepts. Wow. What about talking about the Hall of Fame? And then they're talking about the second precedent was the discovery of unconventional high temperature superconductor, which was the subject of the Nobel Prize in 1987.
Yeah.
Wow. So they're still trying to figure that out. But this whole concept that it says the key proposal is that the charge can flow in special, here it is again, special lattice to produce effects like orbital magnetism. So when you see orbital magnetism, that also makes you think about like electron spin and stuff like that.
It certainly does.
Boy, there's a lot of beef in this burger.
Cool stuff.
Right
Yeah. This is something that we're gonna have to take a little while and start going through. There's a lot going on here.
And it's the kind of thing that you could imagine that you'd go, what about you be talking about now? The next 2 things are kind of at the opposite end of the spectrum. The first one is about Robert, this is a really cool concept, and it's a breakthrough. I know you're a nanotechnology fan.
I am.
And one of the things that people said, nanotechnology, we could have little tiny motors, and they could like be drills, and they could go into cells and drill out. There are all kinds of things people have tried to do. This thing is really cool because if you look at the diagram, this is one of the charts I was telling you about.
Scientists designed super fast molecular motor.
Now, you see what you see in that little
chart? And
chart?
it's not just a motor, it's a light-driven motor.
Well, and so there's the little light source, and they're showing some kind of a really cool structure that is basically made up of 2 chromophores. So chromophores are structures. The neat thing about this is the way they have managed to, and again, this is nanotechnology engineering that just is mind-blowing. It says the new design is driven by light only. They've had a bunch of things where they have some that one step is that you apply light and it turns a little bit, then you have a cycle where it has to cool, and then it turns again. But this says this design is driven entirely by light and can make a full rotation or turn in picoseconds.
Using the power of a single photon. Wow.
So you're going, okay, well, could it get any better? I don't know. I mean, this is the very earliest stages of this, but they go on to explain. It says basically they've designed these chromophores and they could either attract or repel. So you're already going, I could see how this is going to work. You're going to have something attract or repel. He says, I wondered if we could use this to make them do something. Well, there's a thought.
Well, sure.
And explain it to a first-year student in the master's degree. See, those are the guys that do all the work.
Yeah.
Then the cool thing was they got 2 chromophores and they connected them to form a single large molecule of these chromophores. And then it goes on to explain how it works, but some of these people are the ones that were involved with the very first molecular motor. If you read down, and he talks about, it took 2 steps. One was two steps driven by light, and 2 driven. So it took 4 steps of different kinds of excitation to make the thing. And then you had to wait. But this thing all happens with just light.
Just light.
The chromophores are widely used, but slightly fragile. Creating a triple bond axis is not easy. I'm thinking, well, yeah. I mean, I know I tried to make a car once, with like the Little Rascals, and putting one axle. He expects that someone will try to build the organic molecule and properties, and so basically, the thing that kills me is that the rotational speed is above the average biophysical process.
So it may be used to control
It's 11:45.
biological processes. Thank you, Zarvox. In the simulations, the motors were attached to a surface, but they will also rotate in solution, which means that these things could move through a solution.
This is
It
really
will require a lot of engineering and tweaking to realize these motors out, but our blueprint will deliver a brand new type of molecular motor.
Well, just the idea, again, you look at this little chart and you understand that you're looking at 2 chromophores, and then they've been joined by, another bond, and the light hits it, and they a single photon actuates it into motion. And like you said, it could be something that will move on a surface, or as you said, like within a solution. And I'm amazed by this.
This is really cool.
I only have one criticism. They could have drawn a better light bulb. That's all
Yeah,
I
I was thinking the same thing. But hey,
that's good. All right, so at the other end of the spectrum, from the nano to the
macro.
big macro, this is a macro time thing. Again, I don't know why. For some reason, since we spent too much time on the UAP and the Gamma Knife alien display that I'm patenting just even as we speak. No, I'm not. This is a really cool study where that apparently, with some really amazing analysis, they're saying that our planet has a pulse.
Right, and it goes through a 27.5
Million.
million year cycle of geological activity. Now, is this geological activity
looks
from
like it.
space, or is this geological activity from the interior of the Earth?
This particular article mostly is talking about what they feel is a 27.5 million year cycle that has to do with the interior of the Earth and the movements of magma, or how all that's going on. So the researchers posit that these pulses may be a function of cycles of activity in the Earth's interior.
Okay. The reason I ask is that about 30, 35 years ago, there was a big push to think that about once every 20, 25 million years, the Earth would go either through some cloud of gas and dust in the Milky Way, and then that would cause more comets to come in, or that there was an object in the outer solar system with an orbit of 20 to 25 million years, and that was disturbing comets, and that But this is not from the sky.
Well, and
this is from under our feet.
And they do acknowledge that, because it says, as it said right after, it says that they posit that these may be a function of cycles of activity in the Earth's interior, geophysical processes, plate tectonics, and all that relate to climate. It says, however, similar cycles in the Earth's orbit and space might also be pacing these events. Or, of course, it could be a combination.
Maybe, yeah. So why would an oscillation through the through the axis of the Milky Way galaxy cause changes in the Earth's core?
I mean, that's the thing. Or, like I said, it's possible that you have 2 distinct things
that are just happen to be going on at about the same time.
Or like for example, the things where, I've seen where you have some kind of wave here and another wave, and it turns out that they don't interact except for like on the, some multiple of this thing. You get overtones and different things. This is, it's a fascinating concept.
I want to know more. This is very, very cool.
Yeah, because so many people do notice and worry and discuss the fact that, the magnetic field seems to be moving over here.
Something's happening.
And it's going to flip and all the,
It says over the past five decades, researchers have proposed cycles of major geological events, including volcanic activity and mass extinctions on land and sea, ranging roughly 26 to 36 million years. But early work on these correlations in the geological record was hampered by limitations in the age dating of geologic events, which prevented scientists from conducting quantitative investigations. So evidently we've fixed some of those. This is fascinating. I want to know more.
Tell me more.
Tell me more.
Tell me more. It sounds like a Broadway play or something.
It does.
Now, Robert, I know you were talking about how like if you're working out on a hot day out there in the backyard at Warwood, there's nothing you like than to sit down and have a delicious smoothie. Well, in this case, this smoothie, I was taken aback when I first saw this because I'm going, okay, so what are we doing here? The Mosquito Smoothie Innovation. Oh, that sounds like a band. The Mosquito Smoothie Innovation boosts future malaria vaccine potential. So I'm going, okay, what are we doing here? Now, you and I have talked about every couple months or several, half of a year, you hear there's another great malaria. I mean, we've had many things talking about how malaria
we have.
And people need to understand that malaria is really serious across the globe.
It says a faster method for collecting pure malaria parasites from infected mosquitoes could accelerate the development of new, more potent malaria vaccines.
Now, the part that's going to blow your mind, Robert, is so the basic premise is that what has been working for vaccines is actually being able to get the malaria parasites and then, like scrunching them up or, using them as, that's going to be the vaccine. Check this out. How do you think they actually get them, Robert? Because this is like an attenuated vaccine.
I would take a single mosquito and I would sort of massage them out.
Say, hey, let me
snout there.
Squeeze them out there.
Squeeze them out the snout.
Here's what I thought was,
and then I'd pull off the wings and squish them. Well, that's what I do.
that's not. I don't think
because I can't stand.
I don't think that's what's recommended.
Oh, well,
so these little sporozoites, are found in the salivary glands, and that's what causes it. So what they've been actually doing, it requires manual dissection of a mosquito salivary gland, which are tiny structures, as you might expect, by a skilled technician. Which, of course, they're literally going, okay, next mosquito, and they're going. It's like they're taking their tonsils out, So you can see that this is time consuming. Well, somebody said.
You think?
Somebody said, hey, you know what? The new method is they basically take all the mosquitoes, and they make a mosquito smoothie.
Sounds like a plan.
And then they filter the resulting smoothie. By size, density, and electrical charge, and they are able to. It's basically like if you were panning for gold or figuring out some way to. You're doing
panning for smoothies.
Your sporozoites. What you've done is you've come up with various separation technologies that are even like I was surprised that would be density. You imagine size would be simple, but the density and the electrical.
So you get a bunch of mosquitoes.
You get a lot of stuff.
Put them in a smoothie. You then put them in
you smoothify them. You smoothify
them. Centrifuge, and you spin these down.
Yeah, so you have like
this
a centrifuge.
Makes perfect sense.
So you'd be using density, and you get a fraction of that with the material, and then you could filter it. But then electrical charge is something they could use too.
Anything that requires them to die, I am all for it.
Okay.
Yes, I am all for it.
So
die, Skeeter, die.
Anyway, the nice thing about this is, they're talking about the traditional dissection. You have all kinds of contaminants and proteins.
But now we're going to be putting skilled technicians out of work.
Well, there are only 3 of them because Could you imagine that job?
So what do you do? I am a skilled smoothie technician, or I am now because they messed up my job.
Wow.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm just going to say the research was funded by the Wellcome Trust and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Once again, Bill and Melinda Gates, with their foundation, are actually doing wonderful things. They're not implanting chips in mosquitoes or anything like that. Don't worry about it. All right, now, this story may be the most important story for for all of us this year.
All
There's-
right,
if there's
let's
a,
see.
is there a Nobel Prize in hiccups in
there
the
certainly
technology?
should be.
This is kind of a cool thing because the hiccups have to do with your nerve. You're like your swallow. Your different nerves get kind of into a weird pattern where. I just watched something where people were trying to get rid of hiccups on a comedy thing. So, according to the University of Texas Health Science Center at San Antonio,
Good.
they have come up with an intervention technique that relieved hiccups for 92% of people who, it says 249 users who self-reported the effectiveness.
Of the tool.
There's going to be big money in this, man. I'm telling you.
It says, in the publication, the scientists coined a new term for the intervention, the forced respiratory suction and swallow tool,
Oh, wait a minute.
or
Capistrano.
FISST.
Fist. You give them the
Team
fist.
also reported the results of a survey of 249 users who were asked whether it is superior to hiccup home remedies such as breathing into a paper bag.
Well, okay, so first of all, I'm trying to get an idea of what this is. Scroll down to where it describes the simple
it says
tool.
The need, it says hiccups are occasionally annoying. The simple tool, the fist, is a rigid drinking tube with an inlet valve that requires forceful suction to draw water from a cup into the mouth.
Okay, so you're really hard. It's got a
The
valve.
suction and swallow simultaneously stimulate two nerves,
Wow, the phrenic,
and the vagus nerves, to relieve hiccups.
So it stimulates these two nerves at
the same time.
and it synchronizes some
And
kind
synchronize
of a thing.
it. Forceful suction induces the diaphragm, a sheath of muscles that inflate the lungs during breathing, to contract. The suction and swallow also prompt the epiglottis, a flap that covers the windpipe during swallowing, to close. This ends the hiccup spasms.
Spasms gone. Well, is that a cool concept?
Then they've got a little user feedback here.
Yeah.
Very cool. So it's that easy.
Yeah, and when they talk about it has a valve, so it's really hard to. It seems clear to me that you probably, if you just had something that, because you have to have something to swallow.
Right.
If you had a straw or something, a device that had just so that you were sucking really hard to get enough stuff to swallow,
Right.
and you did that and then swallowed, you basically would achieve this effect.
So wait a minute. If you had, say, a smoothie that was really thick,
and densy. Maybe there are a bunch of legs and things.
legs and wings.
I think you're onto something, Robert.
And so you're sucking, and all of a sudden you go, wait a minute, my hiccups went away.
Wow, that would be.
Oh, see, there, a Radio Science News just merged two
wait a minute.
fascinating
That's
pieces
true.
of science.
Your synthesis would be like a twofer. So basically, you could not only cure malaria but hiccups at the same time.
hiccups at the same time. Yes. Wow. $1 billion idea.
Right down, Erica. Fair enough. Okay, now let's look at this cool story about volcanoes.
I like volcanoes.
We have a really good friend, Ted Bradstrom, who is.
Yes,
he's crazy
he
about
is.
what, penguins and volcanoes,
Penguins
and some
and
other
volcanoes
things.
and a myriad of other things. In fact, the last couple hours that I spent with him when I went to go see him, just about a month and a half ago, we went to Volcanoes, a national park. Love that place.
Yeah.
And he gave a tour that was spectacular.
Well, I can imagine. Hey, you remember when I talked about that satellite that was up there, with the little, with the laser pointer chasing the tomcats around?
Yes, I do.
Well, okay, this it looks like a Gary Larson comic.
I know.
doesn't it? Okay, so this is really cool because there was a volcanic eruption in 2019 of the White Island, or the Wakari with two A's. This was a really important thing, but what they've gone back and done, I'm looking at our time and I'm thinking we're not going to cover everything.
That's all right.
So
there's always next time.
So go back there, and it turns out that New Zealand's island, this was really serious. I mean,
White
I think
Island,
people, it said it claimed the lives as 22 people injured, another 25.
What were they doing on that?
Well, it was like
that was a tourist thing going wrong.
When they say tourist trap, that adds a whole new phrase to it, doesn't it?
It really does. That was a mistake.
So here's the cool thing. Using high-resolution satellite data and computer algorithms, scientists have revealed how gases released by the volcano subtly changed before, during, and after the eruption. Okay, so now they have this little going, hey, there's the eruption.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I'm just thinking so the cool thing about this is they went back and looked at this, and here, I mean, the remarkable thing. There's a long thing talking about the Sentinel-5 precursor satellite that it just happened to fly over at about an hour, and it collected all this during the eruption time. But the thing is, they were able to develop what looks like a signal of an initial, prior to the eruption, release of a very characteristic sulfur dioxide.
Wow.
And so what they're
That's
looking at is,
interesting.
it's the kind of thing that we always talk about. Well, the dogs heard the earthquake before, and then this is one where the
if
data.
you knew that was going to happen, then you could get everybody off that island.
And it was nothing that you could detect like on the ground, but from the satellite data, they've found this signature. Hey, come back next week. We'll talk about the last stories we missed. And
It's 12 o'clock.
Nah, not quite. I'm going to give you another few seconds. Next Saturday, 11 till 12, Radio Science